Welcome to Just Be a Man. Each week, we offer commentary from a man's perspective on a range of meaningful topics, such as our world, family, relationships, sex, and much, much more. Our purpose is to impart wisdom to our audience through meaningful and transparent conversation. This program is hosted by five brothers from other mothers who have been friends for over 30 years and collectively have over 250 years of experience.
Welcome to Just Be a Man. Each week, we offer commentary from a man's perspective on a range of meaningful topics. Our purpose is to hopefully entertain you guys while imparting a little wisdom through meaningful and transparent conversation. Today's topic, the financial side of divorce. This program is hosted by yours truly, Charles Castile, a semi-retired business executive. We have Stefan DeVille, a retired military officer. We have Mike Thigpen, retired juvenile corrections officer and human services specialist. And we have Wayne Tucker, who's an independent business consultant. Now, Wayne, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your experience as it pertains to divorce and finances.
Okay. Well, I want to just start by saying it's a really tough situation out there for fellas when they have to deal with the monetary situation. So if you happen to be a dude who is making a little bit of money and the wife or ex-wife is not making a lot of money, you're going to catch it. So every state works a little bit different, but there's a calculation that is created in each state to determine what your child support should be, and it's based upon how much money you make and how much money the other spouse makes, and then they make some magic happen. So it gets real tricky. So I mean, you can't really debate the math if you're trying to take care of your kids, but you know the numbers are tough sometimes. It feels like you're spending like there's a whole lot of money that's coming out your pocket, and no one seems to care. No one seems to care. So that's the first part that I had to deal with. The next part is alimony. So because I was a primary breadwinner, I had to deal with alimony, and because of the amount of time that we were married, it was when we first went through mediation and we're talking about determining the alimony amount. They wanted me to do alimony for 9 years, and it was some ungodly number. And I pushed back, and in fact, that was the thing that stopped the mediation that time. I came back a little bit later, another week or two later, and got the number cut in half, and got the number of years cut from 9 years to 4 years. So still didn't like the numbers, but it was way better than I was dealing with before. And the bottom line is nobody really is concerned about how you make it work as long as you make it work. So, Charles, you mentioned at the beginning that I'm an independent contractor, business consultant, and so I kind of work for myself. So sometimes things are up and sometimes things are down, but no matter what, that check got to be there. So I mean, there's been challenges and a lot of things like that, but it's really tough out there. So I just want people to account for that when making these decisions, and just know that there's no leniency when it comes to child support. There's a little bit of negotiating when it comes to alimony, but child support is in stone, and you don't do that right, you could end up in jail. So that's all I have to say on that.
Without a doubt, appreciate you sharing that, my brother. Now, Stefan, let's go to you. I know you have a little experience in this area, so tell us from a divorce perspective, what was that like for you in terms of your finances?
Well, good evening, everyone. This is Stefan DeVille. I bring you greetings from the Washington, D.C. area. Um, I had two divorces as discussed in the last episode. My first divorce, my ex-wife was more concerned about child support than alimony. And I applauded her for that. She said, "Hey, look, as long as you take care of the kids, I really don't need, maybe 6 months. but I really want to focus everything on the kids. And I took that to heart because typically the states require you to pay to 18, child support for the kids. Because she only wanted 6 months, I made it a point to continue even after they reached the age of 16. I'm sorry, 18, to pay child support. My oldest, I stopped paying child support for her. And when she was 24 and a half, and I plan on doing that for my youngest, who is right now 22. And the reason why I bring that up is that I think it's important that not only do you take care of the kids, but they're going to need things in an opportunity to get their life in order as adults. So I continue to, funnel money, and the mother's very good. She doesn't spend anything on herself. It goes to the kids or for now grown adults for their college or their requirements, which exceed outside of the house. Now, the second divorce, uh, we didn't have any kids, but this lady wanted alimony. It was egregious at first. And, luckily, because I was already paying child support, that dropped it down. But it was unique. I found out, truthfully, yeah, she loved me, but she actually was in a relationship for the money. And I'll tell you why I said that. 2 months, no, I'm sorry, a month after my last payment, she shot me a note saying, "Hey, you're still required to pay alimony." I said, "No, I'm not, because I've already paid 48 months." And since then, since then, I haven't heard from her. Nothing. It was very unique. As long as I was paying her bills or giving her money, life was good. But once that check dried up and she didn't calculate correctly, after the threat and then my counter back to her, disappeared. So it's unique. I think child support is very important. Alimony, no, I'll give you a couple months, but then you got to pull yourself up and make ends meet on your own. So that's my take. Thanks.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Stefan, especially, the fact that you've continued with the child support payments, beyond, what the typical person would do. Now, just to follow up on that a little bit, you mentioned that, um, I guess your former wife is not spending on herself. How do you sort of police that? How do you come to that understanding that that's the case?
It's the person. She was she's very thrifty with money, and she's the type of person that will buy a car cash and then put money in the bank, um, for the next car. In other words, paying herself so that when she needs the next car, she can just pay cash. It's just her nature. So I knew she was just spending on the kids when they were under her, and then she basically gives a check to the girls every month that is sent to them, and then they put it in their account for their own requirements. So it's just an understanding of the person that I was dealing with.
Okay. All right. Appreciate you sharing that, my brother. Now we're going to move on to Mike Thigpen. Mike has been fortunate enough to have never experienced divorce as it relates to his own personal relationship and marriage, but unfortunately, he did have to deal with it having been a child of divorced parents. So, Mike, from that perspective, share with us, again, what that meant for you growing up as a child, again, the financial part of that.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is Mike Thickpin from Connecticut, CT Stand Up. Anyway, what I want to say was, yeah, I was a product of divorce, but back then, I don't think a lot of people brought the courts into it. I think it was more of a honor system, which a lot of people were dishonored, by this whole thing because some fathers were good, for a while, and some weren't, and then stuff started missing. Then you miss a week, week turn into 2 weeks, and then 2, 3 months, whatever. So what I saw was like the stock market, everything was up and down. My one time pops was good for 3 to 4 months, and then for 2 months he was down or whatever. I don't know what the background was, but my mother made the ends meet. My mother worked Monday through Friday, and she worked on the weekend. So I think she knew early, as a smart woman, not to depend on for him for anything. So, and that's what I saw, and that's what I actually experienced. And when he did come through, he came through. But when he didn't, no biggie, because she had it covered. And I knew that we were in a deficit because there was a lot of things that we wanted that we couldn't get right away. While Cass was eating Captain Crunch, we was eating Raisin Bran because that was cheaper at the time, because nobody it wasn't a health thing, so nobody wanted Raisin Bran. So there was things that we noticed, um, in the household that we didn't have. But my mother made it work. You know what I mean? She made it work. She made bread pudding, this big ass tray of bread pudding, and that was our after school snack. We would do a big, big hunky brick square of it with some milk, and we was good until she got home, and even after that. So we made it work. But there was definitely, the effects of it. But I think when you're dealing with mothers, they just make it work. They figure it out, and they make it happen for you. And that's what I have to say in regards to that part.
Hey, Charles, this is Wayne. Could I say something before you move on?
Absolutely.
Hey, I just wanted to step in just real quick here. One of the things I wanted to just point out is the fact that I was talking about child support and alimony before, and just to be clear, I never had a problem with the child support. I ain't like the number, but I never had a problem with it because I knew that that was my responsibility, and I was okay
Mhm.
with that. The only challenges I had was that alimony. It's just a crazy situation. So, you know, I know that dudes is responsible for taking care of their kids, and I have no problem with that. And so a dude who doesn't do that, or who intentionally doesn't do that, that's not cool.
Nah.
But I think there's a bunch of dudes that are trying to do the right thing. The system makes it hard. The system makes it real hard. Look, I gave that example before of child support, and you don't pay that, and you end up locked up. So now, how you making money now? So it doesn't make sense, right? And so you just, however much time you spend locked up, that you're just creating more and more arrears. So now you owe more that you wasn't paying. It's just a really backwards kind of system. So I think there's a lot of good dudes out there that are trying to do the right things. They might have different challenges with employment, with money, whatever. But I don't think a dude should skate and just not have to take care of that at all and just disappear. But I just want to bring that up because I just wanted to separate child support from alimony because they're not the same. So child support is for your kids. Alimony is child support for the spouse. It's spouse support. So it's different.
Hey,
So
Charles.
Yeah, I think that's a very important distinction that you made, and I appreciate the clarification on that. Yes, Mike.
Hey, I would just like to elaborate a little more just on child support, because I know I didn't go through divorce. I'd have to deal with alimony. But like Wayne said, the system is crazy, man. Because when I found out, when I knew in my mind and my heart that I was taking off, I was leaving this woman, I wasn't just dipping. I told her I was leaving. She didn't want to believe it, whatever. I don't know what the deal was, why you still wanted to go on if you know the relationship was toxic. But anyway, I even took the initiative to go down to child support and tell these people, say, hey, what do I do? Because I'm leaving. Me and my lady are not going to be together anymore. And I want to make sure my son is taken care of. So what do I need to do to take care of him? And they looked at me like I was crazy. They were sitting there. They had to call the supervisor over all this other stuff. And I'm like, what's wrong? What's going on? Well, you have to be reported. I said, what do you mean? I said, I'm down here. I said, I got all my information. I want to sign up so I can make sure this stuff is coming out of my check. They didn't even know what to do. They didn't have a scale. This dude started talking numbers off the top of his head, and I had to go ask somebody else about it. And come to find out, this dude didn't even know what he was talking about. He was trying to rake me over the coals. I'm like, dude, I'm down here telling you I got a job. I want to take care of my son. He's like, well, we don't have a scale, so we're going to start you off at the top. I said, you ain't going to start me on no damn top. No, who the hell? I don't know who the hell you start me off at the top. You don't even know who I am. You ain't even get my information. You know what I mean? So he did that. And not only that part was, when I went to court, They treat you like everybody else do. You come down there, you go in there with your khakis, your shirt on, you got your paperwork in your folder, whatever, and you got Mr. Pants on the ground sitting next to you. Nothing wrong with brothers hanging up. That's your thing, hanging up. But they treat me just like I treat him when I walk in the office. The lady had the same attitude the dude left out. So I had to bite my tongue a few times to make sure that I went through the process correctly and I didn't have any problem. Because when you go down there and you get labeled as somebody being difficult to deal with, that's how they deal with you. They either put you to the back of the line or they give you a hard time, or whatever the case may be. I don't know if things change, but I just know that it wasn't anytime I had to go down there and she went up on the child support on me, I never denied it. And the judge said, Mr. Thickman, is this fine with you? I said, Your Honor, it's fine. No problem. But there's been times where I went down there, she didn't even show up, and I spent money, time, gas, everything to go down there, not for her not to show up, and she didn't even get in trouble. So I mean, there's, like Wayne said, there's there's a positive side of being a good dad and making sure you're taking care of your kids, but the system is not definitely set up for that. It's still antiquated and it's still treating you wrong. And I'm all set with that. Thank you.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt again. I know, Charles, you want to get yours in there, but I just want to say real quick, the one thing that's a challenge for a lot of dudes is that you don't know, like your first time dealing with this, you don't know. Like Mike was just saying, he went down there trying to get ahead of it, and people didn't even know how to act. But it's just same thing for a guy, somebody who go to court for the first time or go to mediation for the first time. You don't know what you're supposed to ask for. You counting on lawyers to help you out with this stuff. And I'm telling you, these cats is all working together because they the only ones that come out on top of this. They get paid. You win, you lose, they get paid.
Well,
So
let's talk a little bit about that, Wayne. You mentioned, guys may not know what to do, what to say, how to present themselves. So, let's just take a few minutes to discuss that. I mean, talk to the guy that has his court date set for tomorrow or next week, and he doesn't know what to do. What advice would you give that individual?
good question. What I would say is you make sure you have all your stuff together. But I think trying to go into a court, because remember, this is a regular courtroom. So there's all kinds of, well, the ones I went into, there's all kinds of other nonsense going on in there besides just this. It's child it's related to welfare or associated with family welfare. It's family court, I guess. So there's other stuff that's not related to divorce specifically. And so you want to make sure you got yourself together. You look like you got yourself together, and but you don't want to look like you got all the money in the world, because they look at that. It just looks like they look at that. If you look like you organize, like you can articulate, you can put a sentence together, they look at you in a little different way. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. One of the things that was really crazy to me is that I went into a court where I had a white lawyer, she had a white lawyer, and the judge was white. And these people, not to put color on it, but these people are making decisions on how this black couple are going to separate money and deal with their children and stuff like that. That's kind of crazy if you think about it, right? Because the two of us couldn't come together and make it happen. We had to go out to these different people. But what I'm saying is, what you want to do is you just want to be respectful, and don't lose your cool. It's real easy to get mad and get heated up in there, because for dudes, it just seems like they don't care. And they say anything, and they talk crazy to you, and you're supposed to just take it. But if you respond in a negative way, you're going to get bad results. So I would just say, just be calm with it, and just make sure you document what you can, and just be prepared. Just be prepared as you can when you go up in there.
That's excellent advice, Wayne. And let me just ask Stefan or Mike, if you have anything to add on top of the advice that Wayne offered.
Yeah, when I went into court, like Wayne said, the first time I didn't know what I was doing, and they wanted the financial affidavits. They wanted this, that. I'm like, I can't remember what how much is your, you spend for groceries. It was bananas, because it was like I just moved out, and I had just got a place, so it's like I can't tell you how much I spend for groceries a week or whatever. I'm eating pizza, you know what I mean? I'm buying a large pizza, trying to make it last 3 days, until I get myself together or whatever. But I think that when you go down there, you just need to make sure that You have your social security card, you have your driver's license, you have your let's see, social security card, driver's license, the latest check stub that you had from your job if you can get it. What else? Go online, check and see what you need. There might be a to-do list what you need to do before now. I know back then there wasn't. There might be something now because they want to you know, move through with the process, expedite the process. So there might be stuff online, but do all your research before you go down there. Because if have a pen, please bring a pen. Bring two pens, because you don't want to be asking nobody. There's nothing like going somewhere and nobody wants you to use their pen, especially after now with all this going on right now with the COVID-19. Bring your own pens, everything, paper, whatever you need. And once you have all those items there, it's a lot easier when they hand you that big pack of paper about financial affidavits or whatever. At least you'll be able to fill in the most important parts about birthdays, where you lived at, and different things like that. So just like Wayne said, come prepared, but just make sure you have, your social security card, your driver's license, your last check stub, and hopefully you can remember off the top of your head how much money you spend a week for whatever, groceries or whatever you do. And clothing and car expenses, everything. And I think that's about it for me, y'all.
Hey,
All
I'm
right, that's
sorry.
good stuff. Yes,
Hey,
sir.
Charles, I'm sorry to keep jumping in like this, but I just want to point out something Mike just mentioned. There's a little difference, right? There's people who go to court to deal with some of this stuff on their own, and then there's people who go with an attorney, and there is a difference. So I just wanted to point that out. So like all this documentation and stuff that Mike is mentioning, that's definitely important if you're going in there by yourself. But if you're going in with a lawyer, you go through this whole process of what they call discovery, and all that kind of paperwork, all that stuff that needs to be notarized and document everything, that's already in the other lawyer's hands before you even get into court. So everybody knows everything before you get into court. They just present all this information, and then the judge makes kind of a decision on it. So it's a little different. So I just wanted to point that out, that if you go in with attorneys as opposed to going in by yourself, the process is a little bit different.
Indeed, indeed. And thanks for sharing that. Stefan, anything to add with regards to this scenario?
No, not really, Charles, but I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, all right. Let me just share a little bit about my personal situation, which is a bit unique. I've pretty much shared it on a previous podcast. My situation was very different from the average Joe. I was married for 18 years prior to getting a divorce. I was the primary breadwinner in the family. And fortunately for us, we had no children together. So we were, um, however, completely entangled with one another financially. We had joint bank accounts, there was the home that we lived in, we had investment properties, of course, retirement plans, stocks, mutual funds, you name it. Now, what made my situation so unique is that we resolved our financial issues, thank God, without mediation, attorneys, judges, absolutely no involvement whatsoever from the court system. And it really goes back to something that Stefan said towards the beginning, is that, the type of person that I was dealing with. I had married someone that was my friend. We were able to basically talk through our differences without, getting heated. Everything remained calm. We just literally sat down and divided our assets in such a way that both of us were able to walk away from the relationship financially whole. Because the divorce was my fault and my idea, it was important for me that my ex was well taken care of. So I perhaps gave in areas that I didn't have to. So, for example, we mutually decided that she would keep the house and, pretty much everything in it. I think, Wayne, you would have wanted help me move out. I pretty much had a very small U-Haul and I took a couple of things and that was it. That was my situation. I was gone. And after all was said and done, I walked away with my retirement intact, no alimony payment. and pretty much a nice, fat check that I could take to the bank and be able to live off, for a while, during my transition. So mine again was very unique in that sense, but at the same time, I can certainly relate to every single story that this panel has shared with regards to what happens within the court system, because it's common knowledge that the court system is downright hostile towards our brothers, especially. So I definitely appreciate the advice that was shared within this panel. Now, we've heard pretty much from both sides of the spectrum. Okay, we've talked about how the court system deals with men. We also talked to a certain extent about the negative impact that it has on children. That is something that Mike articulated very well. The feeling of growing up, without both parents and the financial impact. He felt it. So my follow-up question for Mike would be, when did you actually connect the dots as a child? Like, at what point did you realize that the financial struggles that my mother is having, or that we're having as a family, are directly connected to what perhaps my father is not doing?
That's a great question. What I experienced is that um, just the small things that I wanted to do and I couldn't do as I got older. Eighth grade, the eighth grade dance. You want to go to the dance, and mom is saying, "Yeah, you can go." But then when you go upstairs, say, "Thanks, mom. Good looking." Go upstairs, and then she's like, "Oh shit, now I gotta figure this out." You hear her say, and she didn't say it in a negative way toward me. She was saying to her like, "I gotta figure this out now. I gotta find," because she didn't want to just give me money to get in. Parents usually want to make sure you got enough money to, if you want to buy something too, or if you need to get home. Because as all y'all know, when your parents say when you go out, always make sure you got some dimes in your pocket. I might be dating myself, but back then she said keep at least 10 dimes in your pocket. You had to go to that payphone and make that call. You know, and now it moved up to a quarter. Back then too. But when I was in the thing, but I noticed that being able to do extracurricular stuff like the movies. We didn't really go to the movies that much. A lot of people started going to movies as things got better, but initially I had to hear about people going to the movies. It was like, you go to the movies? Like, nah. So different things like that, and just the way she did things with everything she made. We wanted hamburgers, but she made pot roast because pot roast lasts 3 days, where you eat up hamburgers in a night. You know what I mean? So that's how I learned how to cook and how to basically learn how to survive when you're on your own. Is that you buy in bulk. You buy a big pot roast, you cut it up, you make pot roast, and you have your little stew, and then whatever's left over, you make a little sandwich or whatever the case may be. So I felt it by just hearing her side, because she wanted to give me and my brother so much, and she couldn't. And there was days when she said, maybe you can go to the next day, and maybe you don't go to this one. Or with sneakers, "Ma, I need a new pair of sneakers. I'm tired of cleaning these, whatever." Well, hold off until whatever. And different things like that that kid didn't want to hear, because you knew you were going out somewhere, or you were going to go on a date or do something, and you didn't have what you needed. And that was another reason why I wanted to get out and work so early, because I got tired of, felt like I was putting a burden on her a little bit. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that. She was doing what she can. So, that was one of the things when I knew that, we had to, work together. My mom, my brother, myself, we had to work together as a whole, as a team, and not put too much stress on her when it came to the financial stuff.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, appreciate you sharing that, Mike. I know we're running a little bit short on time, so let's talk a little bit about the solution, um, because we talked a lot about the impact that the whole court system and alimony and child support, all those things have on we as men. But what suggestions do you have that would care for everyone involved in a situation? The children, men, the women involved. Are there any solutions that we should be thinking about as a society? So Wayne, let me just pose that question to you, If anyone else wants to chime in, we can. Wayne.
All right. I think there are some solutions. I think one of the things is when a couple decides that they're no longer going to be together, the first focus needs to be the children. And so, whatever it takes to get those children right is what you need to do. The next thing that would make this situation way better is to that the two people that are going their separate ways, um, that agree to go their separate ways, that they're able to communicate. So I'm not saying that lawyers don't need to be involved or no one else needs to be involved, but that at least you could talk civil, so that you could at least have conversations, real conversations, without it getting too crazy. So I think it has to be more civil. I think it really does, and I think a dude needs to, or us guys need to just kind of be clear on what it is that we want and try to say, you know what, this isn't working out for me. It's not working out for you. This is what we need to do. You know, kind of the way that you mentioned, Charles, you guys were able to talk it out. I think that should be the norm, because once you get into the system and they start, someone else is making these decisions for you, you ain't gonna like it. So I mentioned that when our settlement was created, I wasn't crazy about it at all. I didn't like it at all. But the thing is, she didn't really like it that much either. So, it's weird, right? So neither of us really got what we wanted, I guess. Um, but at the same, but now it's in the books. It's the law, So you gotta you gotta carry and hold up to that. So I think it's just couples, excuse me, need to communicate better and really look at the interests of the kids. If the two adults can't figure it out how they're gonna make themselves stay together, then they need to say, okay, now how do we make sure that the kids are good?
Very well said. Stefan, coming to you next, sir. Anything that you can add with regards to solutions?
Not much I can add to it because I believe the most important thing is that the kids are taken care of, and their needs, um, and as well as open communication is important. But quite often, when you're going through a divorce, the last thing you can have is real, true communication with your former or soon-to-be former spouse, because a lot of times they're angry, you might be angry, or a combination of the kids and everyone angry. So as long as you focus on the kids and you focus on yourself, that's the most important thing. Thanks.
Appreciate that, sir. And Mike, you have the last word on this topic.
All right, gentlemen. What I want to say is that due to the fact of my relationship, the way it was, the communication was terrible. The individual wasn't focused on what I was saying, and they just made it hard overall. It was hard leaving my son. I'm gonna tell you right now. It's nothing like you looking at a little face at 2 years old. He looking at you, and then you're not looking at him the next week. I'm talking about my heart was pulled out of my chest. That's how sad I was, man. And I mean, I knew I was going to do what I needed to do for him. I wasn't going to let anybody deter me from that, because growing up without a father, when my dad passed, it was just tough for me, with this whole thing. And I just want to say that what I did was, due to the fact that the communication wasn't clear, um, I actually went down to the court and I had them take it directly out of my paycheck. So every month she got the same amount every month. There was no deterrent, whatever. I got my little tax information at the end of the year, whatever, and it just made it easy. And what I did was, due to the fact that we couldn't communicate as adults, I just made sure I did as much as I could as a parent, not only to make sure that the money she got received for him was taken care of, but also to stay in his life as much as possible, because that's gonna be the buffer for you. You can't let this other side win. Whether it's the male or the female, you can't let them win and deter you from spending time with your child. So just do what you have to do. If you got to have it taken directly out of your check, so be it. And if you got that relationship where you can go bring money every month, and you're gonna be able to document that stuff. For me, I just did it because I didn't have time to write down, keep receipts, a box of receipts, do all that other crazy stuff. I just had them take direct deposit, and that's what's been going on for the last 17 years. And I think that's it for me, Charles. Thank you for asking.
All right. Well, great discussion as always, my brothers. Before we close, we're going to move into our drop in the mic segment, which allows each of our panel members to get a little something off their chests. So, Wayne, let's start with you. Drop the mic.
All right. I want to just say that we just had a really interesting topic, and it's kind of heavy. A lot of people dealing with that, and or will be dealing with it. What I want to say is not to lighten the mood so much, but to just say that dudes who are in this situation or coming to this situation, you got to make sure you take care of yourself mentally because it's real hard out. It's real hard. So you need to make sure that you're taking care of your health, your mental health, your physical health, everything. Because if you don't do that, you're no good to nobody. Definitely not your kids. Drop the mic.
Stefan, you're up.
Well, we'll drop the mic this evening. I want to talk about the fact that we've gone about a month and maybe a couple days without any organized sports on TV. I've never known a time where I couldn't turn on TV and not at least tennis was on. My God, no sports. It's rough out here for someone that enjoys something of variety. So I encourage all our listeners to get out and do something, even if it's just exercise and walking or something, to get your mind off of staying in the house and living life without sports. That's all I got. Thanks.
Mike, you're up. Drop the mic.
My drop the mic segment is the digital age. I just found it very interesting to, unfortunately be out of work at this time after being hurt. And with this whole COVID-19 thing, um, it's just a big change for me. It's just it's a transition. And I say it's a transition due to the fact that I had surgery on my shoulder, and it gets to the point where unless it's an emergency, you can't go get a follow-up appointment. And what I'm doing now is something called Access, which is some video conferencing. So I had a video conference with my surgeon. I had to take pictures, upload the pictures to to the website. He was able to look at them and get back to me, and we had a conference about my at my post operate my post surgery, which I thought was interesting. But now with the COVID-19, going the way it is, the same thing is happening with my physical therapist. We'll be interacting with Zoom. I'll be doing a lot of physical therapy at home, which is new for me. I mean, I've worked out before, but actually trying to work out and communicate and give back feedback to a physical therapist, that's new. Same thing with the MRI. I have to go get an MRI, but guess what? I will not be going to the doctors like I was supposed to go meet with the doctor and sit in his office. He will be reaching me by Telmed. So my drop the mic segment is the digital age is here to stay, and this new normal thing is something that we're gonna have to wrap our heads around. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I was laying on my couch the other night, chilling, when my wife comes walking in talking about our youngest twin being upset about something. So I'm like, wow, I got to get up and see what's going on. So I go into his room. This dude is just bawling, talking about someone is bullying him. Now, that just didn't compute for me because we're in a pandemic. Who bullies during a pandemic? Now, this little dude hasn't been anywhere and no one has been to our house. So I'm trying to understand who in the world is bullying him, how they could be bullying him. Now, him and his brother, they literally beat the crap out of each other all the time. So I know he isn't talking about his brother. I've also seen this dude talk major trash in our house. So I'm just trying to understand. So this little dude proceeds to tell me with a face full of tears that he's being cyberbullied by some kid named Asher on Fortnite. Now, it took everything I had not to curse this little dude out. I'm like, if someone is on a freaking game talking crap, just talk crap right back to him. If someone calls you a name or threatens you online, tell him to kiss your ass, block him, and disconnect from the game if necessary. Case closed. That's it. It's as simple as that. We're not talking about being at school, someone in your face trying to take your lunch money. We're talking about someone that is online, potentially in another country, talking smack. So I've seen this little Negro, again, engage in full hand-to-hand combat with his brother. They literally, like I said before, beat the crap out of each other. So I've heard him, again, talking major stuff. I'm not understanding the situation. He has the nerve to talk about some damn Asher cyberbullying him. So, man, cyberbullying, really? It just doesn't compute for me. Mic drop. Fellas, we had an excellent panel today. I'd like to thank our audience for joining us this week on Just Be a Man podcast. Be sure to check us out on social media, where you can subscribe to our show and perhaps leave a comment or two. Let us know how we're doing. Also, remember to tune in next week for more meaningful discussion. Until then, we wish you peace and blessings.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Just Be a Man podcast. Be sure to check us out on social media where you can subscribe to our show and/or leave a comment. We will love to receive your feedback. Also, remember to tune in next week for more meaningful discussion. Until then, we wish you peace and blessings.